All right, you guys got to check this out. Trump just went on Fox News and he was asked straight up about General Mark Milley. He was asked about calling January 6th a day of love and asked about saying we are enemies from within. But the thing is, Fox News likes to put on a veil of doing a strong, hard journalistic interview, but you can't do a strong interview if you never actually push back further. They'll ask one semi-tough question, then accept Donald Trump's BS answers, but that is why shows like this exist. Shows like the one that you and I have built up because we fact-check Donald Trump relentlessly. We make sure we promote our pro-democracy candidates, and with 16 days to go, we have no time to waste. Drop a like, subscribe, and let's jump right in with this banger clip of Donald Trump being asked about General Mark Milley, and then we will thoroughly debunk what Trump is saying here.
General Jim Mattis, who was your Secretary of Defense, has now joined General Mark Milley, who was your Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, in saying, this is their quote, you are the most dangerous person ever. I assume you'd like to respond.
Well, they were not my cup of tea. They were woke. You know that. They were not great generals, in my opinion. I was asking them advice. I didn't agree with the advice. Look at the advice that Milley gave to Biden on Afghanistan. Move the soldiers out first. No, you have to move the soldiers out last. I don't respect them as soldiers.
This is absolutely disgusting. Both Mattis and Mark Milley have spent their entire lives serving our country, and now Donald Trump, Mr. Bone Spurs, is going to say that they are the ones that are terrible soldiers. Let me just show you guys who General Mark A. Milley is. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was once the highest ranking military officer in the nation and the principal military advisor to the president, Secretary of Defense, and National Security Council. Let's just skim through this really quickly. General Mark Milley has multiple command and staff positions over 6 divisions over 44 years, including all of these while serving as the commanding general. This man has a thorough resume. He's fought in Egypt, in Haiti, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, all of these different places, and Donald Trump has a goal to say that he is not a good soldier, and it's because General Mark Milley said this about Trump during the peaceful transfer of power in 2021.
We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's militaries. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
He was talking about Donald Trump, and let me say again, this is not some woke military sergeant. This is General Mark Milley, General Mark damn Milley, and we can see right here Donald Trump saying that he's a lightweight last night.
These stupid people like Milley, General Milley. Remember his performance in Congress, General Milley and Mattis, all these guys, what a bunch of lightweights. But we
a bunch of lightweights. I just want to return to this one more time. General Mark Milley has a bachelor's degree in political science, and General Mark Milley has a master's degree in international relations from Columbia University and one from the U.S. Naval War College in national security and strategic studies. He's a graduate of the MIT seminar. This is a smart dude who has served our country for 44 years through 6 divisions and worked his way up to the highest ranking military officer in the nation. And Donald Trump, the one who wants to terminate the Constitution, the one who wants to subvert the will of the American people, is going to say that Mark Milley is a loser or a sucker or whatever he wants to say. It actually kind of pisses me off. That genuinely pisses me off. Now we have Trump saying that if he wins, he wants to have total unchecked power to take CBS off the air. Take a listen.
But you go for a step further and you say CBS should lose its license. Why?
Sure. Well, I've never seen anything like it. She gave a horrible, incompetent answer on a news program. It's not an entertainment program. They call it news. They say it's a #1 news program.
How is he saying this stuff out in the open now? He is genuinely calling to strip the broadcast licensing away from a news station that he deems adversarial. He even went on Fox News, which is a friendly news station, and tried to bully them into not running attack ads on him anymore. He even said he's going to talk to Rupert Murdoch about it. Listen.
You're going to be back on the campaign. Actually, you got another event to go to. So
yeah,
thank you for giving us some time.
You know what the event I have now?
No.
A very big event. I'm going to see Rupert Murdoch.
Okay.
That's a big event. I don't know if he's thrilled that I say it.
Yeah, please tell him we all said thank you.
I'm going to tell him something very simple because I can't talk to anybody else about it. Don't put on negative commercials for 21 days. Don't put them. And don't put on their horrible people that come and lie. I'm going to say, Rupert, please do it this way.
Right.
And then we're going to have a victory, because I think everyone wants to have
And you're going to out.
This is desperate, and this is weird, and they're laughing, but he is not joking. Could you imagine if either Kamala Harris or Barack Obama went on TV and said, please stop playing attack ads. I'm going to go talk to the owner of this station, and I'm going to tell him to stop running attack ads. Republicans would relentlessly be calling that election interference. They would say it's the worst scandal since Watergate. I mean, hell, CBS edited out 10 seconds of a Kamala interview, and they said this is the worst thing to happen since 9/11 in America. And now Donald Trump is going live on TV and begging for them to either stop running negative ads or to strip the broadcast licensing away from CBS. And if we just take a step back and look at all of Donald Trump's behavior throughout the year, whether it's him saying the Emmys are rigged, the 2016 primaries are rigged, the 2020 election is rigged, the courts are rigged, or whether it's him saying that every single media station around him is against him, it is an authoritarian tactic to undermine anything that is meant to be a check or balance for somebody in power. So in a democracy, the media and the courts act as guardrails. They keep people in check, and Donald Trump wants to erode those very guardrails, as we've seen time and time again. Here's another clip of Donald Trump being asked about calling Democrats the enemy from within. And I said earlier in this interview, they have the veil of asking tough questions, but when you don't push back any further, when you don't call out his lies, that's all it is a veil.
You talk about the enemy within. There's enemies, America's enemies outside. The enemy within is a pretty ominous phrase if you're talking about other Americans.
I think it's accurate. I mean, I think it's accurate.
Who are you talking about? Who's
And,
the enemy?
you know, I heard that. They say, oh, the enemy.
Adam Schiff. He's talking about Adam Schiff. And I think this is the Fox News realizing in real time that Donald Trump is unhinged. I know that he doesn't push back, but this guy's being genuine. He wants to know.
The enemy within. There's enemies, America's enemies outside. The enemy within is a pretty ominous phrase if you're talking about other
I
Americans.
think it's accurate. I mean, I think it's accurate.
Who are you talking about?
Who are you talking about? He's talking about Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and any Democrat who has ever tried to check his power whatsoever.
If you're talking about other
I
Americans.
think it's accurate.
But also, it's kind of hilarious how Fox News always gives Trump the opportunity to walk back his insane phrases. So he says, the enemy from within, over and over. They really want him to walk that back on air so that he can regain some votes with normal people who don't like the divisive rhetoric. And instead, he doubles down. He triples down. He says, no, they are the enemy from within. And then that comes in stark contrast to Donald Trump being asked about Vladimir Putin, which he sometimes says might not be enemies or are so-called enemies. How insane is that? Trump says that Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un are so-called enemies who may not be enemies, but Democrats are the enemy from within.
The outside people, the so-called enemies, if they're enemies, and they might not be enemies, if you have a smart president, they can be handled. But when you have people investigating my campaign, when you have people, you know, they spied on my campaign, how you understand that. That's been proven. But they spy on your campaign. The Russia hoax was all made up, and now it's acknowledged that it was made up. All of these different things. You have the 51 different agents saying it was from Russia, and now they all say it wasn't from Russia. Okay, so we were lying. Many other things, many. I could go, you just don't have enough time. But what they've done is so terrible. Who's ever heard of anything like this? Adam Shifty Schiff, he's a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician.
I'm getting so sick of the constant projection, but is this not wild that he said in the same interview, Democrats are the enemy from within? He's saying that we are the absolute enemy, people like Nancy Pelosi, but then he says, regarding Vladimir Putin, the so-called enemies that might not be enemies. It reminds me of this clip from John Bolton where he says that Trump is desperate to make deals with dictators and is also easily manipulated. Take a quick look.
That he thinks these relationships that he has with Putin or with Xi Jinping or with Kim Jong-un, that they would save him when it comes to the actual policy and the dynamic of those relationships, and that you're arguing it won't. It doesn't do anything for that.
Well, I think the hard men of history, like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, understand what their job is for their respective country. I don't think Trump understands what the job of the presidency is for ours. And I will say, having been in the room with him in meeting those people, having listened in on his phone conversations, I don't think they are really friendly with Donald Trump. I think they think, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un and others, they think he's a laughing fool. And they're fully prepared to take advantage of him. Trump's self-absorption makes it impossible for him to understand that.
So you think they'd be happy if he returned to the Oval Office?
Yeah, I think they believe he's an easy mark. Take Vladimir Putin on the situation in Ukraine. I think he'd love to get Donald Trump to do what he said on the campaign trail and try and find Ukrainian President Zelensky and Putin, get all three of them in a room together. And Trump says, I'll solve the crisis in 24 hours. That is impossible. But when you come to the end of the 24 hours, obviously it won't be Donald Trump that failed, because that doesn't happen. It must be one of the other two. I think he would point the finger at Zelensky. I think Putin would be delighted with the outcome at that point.
Valuable to boost these voices, like people like Mark Milley, who are experienced and call Donald Trump out for what he is. This is him being asked about January 6th being a, quote, day of love.
The day you called it a day of love. That sparked a lot of reaction, given that many police officers were attacked and there were mobs shouting, hang Mike Pence. Can you understand why many Americans would view it as a dark and tragic day in our history?
The crowd I spoke before, which you rarely see, I have pictures of it, they're massive, but nobody wants to put them in. It was the biggest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I've spoken to the biggest crowds. I've never seen that many people. A small group of them, and you know, peacefully and patriotically, which nobody uses. My words were peacefully and patriotically. A small group went down to the Capitol, but they came because they thought it was a rigged election. This was a protest against a rigged election.
And they thought it was a rigged election because you told them it was a rigged election. The question that always stumps Trump supporters when I'm debating them about January 6th and they tell me that Trump had nothing to do with it is, if Trump never said the election was stolen, would they have been there in the first place? Nobody would have been there. Trump held the rally walking distance from the Capitol.
And I can't say exactly the number, but I've had massive crowds, and this was by far the biggest crowd. I've spoken to the crowd at the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. On the 4th of July, this crowd was bigger. And I tell you, there was a beauty to it and there was a love to it that I've never seen before.
But Mr. President,
a small group of people went down to the Capitol, and then a lot of strange things happened.
This is insane. I know for a fact the Fox News host is like, this is absolutely wild. I want to read this article from MeidasTouch, and then I have one more clip. Trump suggested the January 6th riot was, quote, government stage. Trump reposted a meme claiming the riot was used to steal the election from him, and this man reposts conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. Trump reposted wild false claims on Truth Social Friday evening about January 6th, a topic many voters hold against him for failing to acknowledge his responsibility and for inciting the attack in the first place. He shared, January 6th will go down as a day in history the government staged a riot to cover up the fact that they certified a fraudulent election. The government, Trump was the government at the time. The peaceful transfer of power had not yet been executed. Trump was the president of the United States. He was the government. I don't know what this meme is implying. Let's watch one more clip.
So they had no guns. They had no guns.
So
that was a peaceful.
So you're comfortable with a day of love?
No.
You wouldn't modify that?
I'm talking about when I made that speech, I've never seen anything like it. They came down to protest a rigged election. Very simple.
He can't stop talking about crowd sizes. It's mind-blowing. And it just shows that he puts his narcissism over the country. He cares more about his crowd sizes. You can't get him to stop talking about crowd sizes during this whole clip. He doesn't directly answer any of the questions. This may be one of the most deranged clips I've ever seen from Donald Trump. Either way, if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and peace out.